Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So then, if you're ready, then we can get started. Should we get started?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Don't ask me hard questions.
Don't ask you hard questions. What is like a hard question you've heard I've asked somebody on the pod, which you do
Like,
not want to be asked?
I
You've
think
been
it's a
listening to
very
the
hard.
pod for a bit.
Yeah, I think one of the questions that you asked someone that I was like, oh my god, if someone asked me, I have no answer to this was I think something about I think something about a belief that you had that has moved or
The
changed or
shift
something
in
like that.
belief.
Yes, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know what an answer. And you won't believe, I've thought a lot about it. I was like, अगर आज इसने मुझसे ये पूछ लिया तो मेरे को आंसर तैयार करके आना types.
I'm sure you
And
have an answer for this
I
now.
have. That's why I think that was a difficult one. That's why I practiced that answer. So if you ask me, I know an answer to that. But I mean, it's a very
Okay, so why don't you
it's
tell
a
me that? What
really
is the
start
shift
with
of
it.
belief you've had?
I
Yeah,
think
why not? You're
I
the
had
most
a
prepared. Best foot forward.
no. I mean, I'm prepared, but I don't know whether it's true or at least I feel it is true. Is I used to have
Mm.
a very strong belief in church, which has moved. I do.
Mm.
I'm not an atheist. I do believe
Mm.
in the religion that I am following, but the
Mm.
concept of a physical church is something that really bothers me sometimes. And I think that's something that
Mm.
I did not see happening to me because I used to go to church every Sunday and everything. But I think that's something that really I moved on and I was like, yeah, I mean, all for the right reasons, but that's
Mm.
religion is something that has moved in my life. And I was like, wow, I did not, I mean, and I didn't even realize it was happening. It wasn't something that I was planning on doing or something happened. It
Yeah.
just moved away and I realized that just because church is saying it doesn't mean it's right. So
Mm.
that's something
Like
that
even in college, were you fairly like church going? I won't say religious, but were you been
I
very
was
church going in
church
college?
going up until 2018, 2019. And
Oh.
yeah, I still go to church. I still go
Mm.
to church at least once a month, once in 2 months or something like that. I try to go to church because I feel
Mm.
it's a space where I have my time to myself. I can sit,
Yeah.
I can do my prayers. But in general, that association that if you go to church, you go to heaven, that has
Mm.
changed drastically for me. And
I see.
and I didn't know that, especially my father, I didn't know he had such a strong feeling towards church. And he's like, you know what, it's all about money for them. Like, I don't know whether I should say it out loud for him, but this is what my father believes. And I
Mm.
just realized instances happening. I was like, yeah, fair. I'm not sure whether they are there for the right reasons. So I think that's why,
Mm.
as much as I go to church, I am not one of those people that church is the thing. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. But
Yeah.
you said it was like a gradual change, but like were there like are there certain like instances which come to mind? The reason I'm quite interested in this because I have so maybe let me share some of my experience. I used to be very so when I was growing up, I would go to church because my parents went to church.
Same. Yeah.
Um, I found it no use, absolutely waste of time, especially
Yeah.
catechism. Oh my god, I would like detest it. Like this is absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
Anyway, then I think in when I was early teens, so like 15, right? I think 11, 12th. I don't know if it was me praying to get good marks in boards or
Yeah.
something else, but
Mm.
I saw some value in like praying. Like I don't know, we should do the like the rosary at home and all. And for me,
Mm.
it was like a good time to just sit and do nothing because
Yeah.
you have to sit there for half an hour. You just
Yeah.
basically keep like muttering some words, but your mind was almost like some form of meditation at that time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wherein you're just like, and maybe of course the potential upside that God will bless you and you'll get good marks in boards. I
Yeah.
mean that turned out, and at least we all of us got into Stephens, so that maybe was some truth in it. And even when I came to college, I would actually go to chapel quite often, because yeah, it was like a very, like you said,
Peaceful thing. Yeah.
very peaceful. It was quiet,
Mm.
and sometimes the sermons, at least in college, I realized the sermons were valuable. I sometimes would go back
Mm.
with some new thing to think about. That was absolutely not the case when I don't know if it's a Catholic church or it's not. I know Stephen wasn't really Catholic church,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
the Catholic church sermons were just like, oh, like, like
Mm.
absolute, like you're killing some brain cells of mine.
Yeah.
Um, And so post that, when I left that, when I moved to Gurgaon, I would go to church. I would go all the way from Gurgaon to come to Cathedral, which is in CP.
Oh,
So I
yeah,
would
yeah.
make the fucking pilgrimage every Sunday. I mean, not every Sunday, but once, twice a month. Because
Yeah.
it was like, again, it was very like meditative. I would sit there in a
Yeah.
nice big hall, quiet.
Mm.
There was nice music. You do that a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I've that was my experience. I've stopped going to church ever since. Like, it's been maybe like 10, 15, not 10, maybe 5, 6 years. But I see the value, like religion or spirituality plays in your life, right? It gives you a sense of community. It gives you a
Yeah.
sense of when things are very, very stressful. It's very easy to be like, oh, everything is in God's hands. And
Yeah.
mentally, it's a shortcut to a lot of a lot
Yeah.
of like dealing with shit. So I'm right
Mm.
now, the context for all of that is, I'm right now at this edge wherein, if I were, like, if I was giving advice to maybe like a 15-year-old, or if I had a kid, right? Would I raise them in that way, or would I not? Like, would I say, oh, church is all rubbish, don't waste your time? Or would I say, go through the rigmarole, do this, because there is
Hmm.
some value you get into it. So anyway, that is the
Yeah.
long context on my view and where I am. So I'm curious to know from you, what were sort of examples, or are there situations that come to mind which in you're like, oh, this is not very, very valuable?
I mean, for me, to be honest, I mean, like I completely agree with you. Church for me is a community. Like
Yeah.
it's a space where I have probably some like-minded people, or because everyone has similar, upbringing in a certain way.
Mm,
Sunday church, jao, ye sab, ye sab. So there is a
mm,
sense of community. There is a sense of closeness, but at the same time, I just feel like the in church what they teach is just at times not relevant. I don't think if
yeah.
people hold on to things so personally. You won't believe, in one of the churches back home in Delhi when
Mm,
I was there, that priest
mm,
actually made a statement saying that girls should not open their hair and come to church because a lot of hair falls on the church and nobody's there to see.
mm,
And I'm like, what is this restriction you're putting on women? Like, men don't have hair, or what? How are you just seeing
yeah.
women's hair on the floor? Like, stuff like that. Even at times, I feel the sermons are just to diss someone. It's like, we are
Yeah.
the best. Everyone else is like lower than us. I don't
Yeah.
accept that. I'm happy if you're teaching good things, like, you know what? Yeah, people are good. You do good, good will come to you. Yes, I'm happy to
Yeah.
hear all of that. But at times, I just feel they're so narrow minded about things. I
Yeah.
don't. That's why I don't see a value to going to church physically, sitting and listening to a
Mm,
sermon. But at the same time, I'm happy to sit in a church, do my prayers, because it's not like I don't have faith. I do have faith. I
mm,
do believe, like, there is there is power up there, and there is
mm,
someone who is helping me from day to day basis.
mm,
But does it happen that if I sit in the church, then only the power will help me? No, I don't believe that anymore. I
mm,
used to believe that, oh, if I don't go to church, this will not come to me. If I don't go to church, I will not get
mm,
good marks and everything. But that
mm,
has moved. I do.
mm,
I have faith. I do my prayers. I do rosary and everything. But at the
mm,
same time, I've lost the concept that even gender, like, I'm in the middle of planning my wedding. My
mm.
God, the amount of money they're asking me just to do a
What?
wedding in the church. And
The
I'm
church
like,
is asking you
you
money to get married in the. Isn't it
in the
supposed to
church.
be a bloody sacrament of marriage, which they're supposed to like give out?
Yes, but because I am not getting married in the church where my parents are registered, it's not free for me. So, because we are getting
Oh
married
my
in
god, that is
Kottayam
news.
and my parents are in a different city in Kerala, so it's not the same church. So, just to cover electricity and blah blah bills of they're charging me a bomb, and I was like, I don't think एक दिन का electricity bill इतना आता है जो
Yeah.
image and that's the thing, right? Initially, he said a certain amount. And then my
Mm.
parents said, okay, okay, the kids are in Australia. Blah, blah. Oh, okay, okay. No, actually, it's Y. And so from X, it went to Y. And I was like, just
And Y
because
is
we're in
higher
Australia.
than X.
Of course. And I was like,
Oh
wow.
my
Like,
god.
literally in one conversation, you've upped your price because we're in Australia. So that's when you realize that, boss, ye the paise ke alawa, it's not like a lot of people are choosing not to get married in church. At least we still have that, you know what, yeah, let's take
Yeah.
the blessing of the church and move forward in our life. Be appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Don't try to rip us off. So
Yeah.
that's something that has drastically
Yeah.
changed.
It is. I agree. I agree. So
Yeah.
maybe just as since we are on this topic, you can just answer yes, no. We don't have to like deep dive into it. And if you want to remove, you can just remove it all. But yes, no. So you believe in Jesus?
Yes.
Is that a yes or no? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Got it. So you're still like, okay, Jesus is there,
Yeah.
but you don't believe, or like, so the only thing is you don't believe in like authority of the church. You're like,
Yes.
okay,
Yes. I
got it,
don't
got
believe
it,
that
got it.
Jesus is sitting in church, and if I go to church, then only
Hmm.
Jesus will come in my life. I believe Jesus is
Okay.
everywhere. As long as you are a good person and you do good,
Yeah.
good will come to you. It and
Hmm.
that's my basic funda.
Got it.
Like,
Got it.
be
Got it.
kind to people. Kindness will come to you. It
Yeah.
doesn't. There is no correlation between going to church and being a good person. There is no
Yeah.
correlation. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's something that I figured.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Have you tried like, I know in Singapore, I won't call it, well, I'll caveat that this is not the right word to use, but it's easiest to understand. Have you tried church shopping, wherein you go visit different kind of churches and see where it's something which you like vibe with a bit more? Because
Nah.
here, for example, I know, so Singapore is quite a religious society.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Christians, very devout Christians, but
Mm.
I've in my conversations people here, it's quite common when they go to a church, they're like, oh, this church is not for me. They go to another church and they're like, I really like this church, you should come try it out. So it's very like, come,
Mm.
attend, be part, see if you like it. If you like it
Mm.
and you're getting what you need, stay. If you don't like it, just move, like go
Yeah.
try another church.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not a Catholic. That's another thing I
Yeah.
realized. People
Yeah.
refer to Catholics and Christians. I was like,
So
oh, interesting.
yeah. Yeah.
So, but have you tried doing that? Like going, seeing there are other churches which are more relevant? Because, like, I have a lot of friends. I respect them. They are smart people, and sometimes I wonder, maybe like like similar to you. I think I would still believe that there is like there's super power we know above. It was just maybe the church I went to was useless. Just
Yeah.
like maybe sometimes the class you attend is useless or a doctor you go to is
Hmm.
useless, right? You
Hmm.
just need to change. Then you don't have to
Yeah.
give up in the belief of like maybe I know doctors in school, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, have you tried doing that?
Nah, I haven't. I mean, there are a lot of options which I keep telling my partner we should go here. He doesn't come to church at all. He is
Okay.
not. He definitely he's like, okay, I have faith, but church is something
Mm.
that I'm completely anti. So
Mm.
he, the thing is, I'm one of those people. I do not. I'm not someone who's motivated by myself. So if there's anything that
Mm.
I need to do, I prefer doing it with someone or a group or
Ah.
blah blah blah. I need a company for this. I mean, especially it's like church, and I'm like, you guys. So he doesn't come with me, so it's like, that's why I do not. I haven't tried it, but that's a good thing.
Okay.
Maybe I should try it. There are a lot of different community churches here.
Yeah.
Protestants and whatever different kinds of Christians that are there. I think they do have a different approach to the way they teach the Bible and everything. So I think
Yeah.
that's a good idea, but I haven't tried and I don't know when I'll get an opportunity to try it.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't tried, but I think that's like a thought which has come to mind because, like I said, I think I do miss a sense of having a community. Sometimes when you think about it, when you move to a new city or you move to a new
Hmm.
place, church is actually the best place to find a group of like people, right? It I think solves a
Yeah,
lot for
yeah.
like a sense of belonging. And I do think the stuff which is written in the Bible is relevant. Like it's thousands and thousands of years old. Like it wouldn't be rubbish if it was like not true, right? It wouldn't have survived that long. So there is value in the stuff which is written there. Just that I think,
I just feel
yeah,
like it's so open to interpretation, and just people at times just use it to manipulate a group
mm,
of people to do things. Though, so I just feel like
yeah,
it's very conveniently misinterpreted as per
correct,
like, oh, this is what I want the people to do, so let me just interpret it. This is what Jesus said. I said, no, that's not. I
yeah,
don't think so. That's what Jesus said. So I think it's open to interpretation. So I don't know whether it is valuable to some people. It might not be valuable to some people, but at the same time, I
yeah,
just feel like the entire the scene that church puts up with the overall activities and all. I just find it too bizarre.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, last maybe comment on this one. I think it's interesting when you studied history in college. It's interesting when you look back. Is the church and the state. for a long time were just the same entity.
Yeah.
Like today we have government and we have church, which are separate entities, but that was not
Yeah.
the case forever.
Yeah.
Historically, the church and
Yeah.
government were the same thing.
Yeah.
And now it sort of has decoupled. And I will go one step ahead to be like, right now, there are a few other things which are decoupling historically, like money and government have always been highly coupled. I think that is going to like decouple in the future, but also spirituality and church have been coupled in the past, and I think that is
Yeah.
like will decouple. So I,
Yeah.
I think like church as an organization is relevant. I think some facets of that organization are failing to keep up. They just
Yep.
need to keep up. I don't think
Yeah.
people do not want it. They just need to keep up. Anyway, enough
Yeah.
of spiel of church. That was a rather interesting start of this episode. So if we've lost people, we've already lost them in 60 minutes. But anyway, so maybe let me give you a quick for listeners. Let me give you a quick brief on what Linda has been up to over the last decade. So Linda and I went to Stevens together from 2010 to 2013. You would not stay in Res. You were staying in Delhi.
Yes.
No. Yes,
Yes. Yes.
correct.
I was
You
in
you were in
Delhi.
Delhi. Yeah, you were in Delhi, so you weren't in Res, but I would say you were like quasi Res. You used to see you quite around. You're not one of those day skis who just run away as soon as class got over. So you
I
would
mean,
hang around quite a bit.
I would hang around, but not as much as I would have wanted to. I feel like my parents were so
Mm,
strict that I had to run back home at some point or the other.
mm,
So I would have enjoyed it more because I hear people's experiences, and it's so different from people who stayed in college more often than I did. So
mm.
I would have
Yeah.
liked it. Yeah.
Okay. So till 2013, you were at Stephens together. Right after Stephens, you went to Bombay, and you were there for a few years. You studied PR and corporate comms at Xavier's Institute of Communication. You then started working in PR. That was your first job. You spent like about a year there. You
Yeah.
then moved to work at some interesting companies, which I think are common household names. So you worked at Tata Sky for a bit. You worked at Shemaroo. For people who don't know Shemaroo, oh my god, like you should look at like like when you were growing up, the all the music had like that Shemaroo logo up in
Yeah.
the corner. I think
Yeah.
like the best way to think about it is it's like a music label which produced, I think, probably all the
Movies
music.
and content. Yeah.
Yeah, all content up to maybe like even the like early 90s, if not early 2000s. Now maybe not
Yeah.
that much, but that was Shemaru. That was pretty cool. And then you went to the fascinating rising world of OTT. So you were at G5, and then eventually Viacom's OTT platform. You spent till about, I think, 2018, 2019 doing a bunch of this stuff. Were you in Bombay all this time?
Yeah, I've only worked in Bombay after I studied there. So I've not worked anywhere else except for Mumbai. And
Wow.
I mean, until the pandemic, I was working with Viacom till 2022 last year.
Oh, wow. So that is
Yeah,
quite a
last year
bit.
September is when I quit because I moved to Australia in March and they gave me the option to work from home because everyone was working from
Hmm.
home, but I was working from
Correct.
home from Australia. So they did, help me. Sorry,
Oh, amazing.
they let me work. So and then when the time difference gets to you, I was like, oh my god, I cannot stay
Hmm.
up till 10 o'clock to do my Indian job. I had to quit and find something in Australia. But they were
Got it.
quite. I
Got
mean,
it.
because everyone was working from home at that point, they were pretty
Yeah.
comfortable with me also working from Australia. But that was
Got
like
it.
for what 3-4 months. That's it. So I was working till 2022.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, they're very recent. So until 2022, you were with Viacom, and then I think, as you mentioned, you moved to Australia in 2022. You started doing your MBA. You're currently in the process of doing the MBA, and you switched over to hospitality. So you started to a big sort of swing from product and OTTs to you now work in hospitality at the Accor Group. For people who don't know what the Accor Group is, it's a bunch of it's like the umbrella brand for a bunch of hotels. I think Pullman is one common one. I'm sure Linda can share some others when we talk about that. And you're right now, as I think you also mentioned, planning for your wedding in
Yes.
about a month, negotiating with the church on what a good price is going to be to get the sacrament of Matrimony. We probably release this after
Yes.
your marriage so that in case they hear this, they'll be like, "What blasphemy!" So
I
maybe,
swear I was
maybe
gonna
we should
say
be.
कि भाई फंसा मत दियो.
The price will go up even more.
Oh, yeah, they'll be like, अच्छा, you're dissing us, तू रुक.
Here's an additional tax, but that's what
Yeah.
Linda has been up to over the last decade. I also will do a shameless plug on Linda's also a happy listener of the podcast. So
Oh,
you should say some good things about why people should listen to more episodes of the pod.
100%. Yeah.
But it's okay. I'm enough of self praise. But anyway, as we look back, Linda, what is your favorite memory from your time at Stephens, 2010 to 2013? 3 good years. What is your favorite memory from your time then?
I was really scared to be in Stephens. I mean, because it's such a big deal. Everyone would talk like you're in Stephens, you're in. I was so scared for first few months. I was even scared to speak to people. In fact, I didn't like. I was so Delhi that I mean so West Delhi I should say that I didn't even know the certain schools people came from, and then I had to go home and search. अच्छा ये तो बहुत अच्छी schools है. Like I had no idea like the quality of people that come
Mm,
to Stephens. I knew it's a good college, but
yeah.
when I started meeting people, I was like भाई साहब मैं मतलब कहा मैं वेस्ट दिल्ली से आई हूँ और ये लोग तो मतलब crazy types. So for me, it was initially it was quite scary, but I think
Mm,
best memories were with just man. Like I just realized everyone's just so friendly. Like that
mm,
concept of oh we are Stephanians, that arrogance is not there, and people were quite friendly. And even classmates. I was amazed that I became friends with some people in hindsight. I was like, wow, dude, I never expected I would be friends with like the topper of history, Surbhi, and all of
mm,
these people. Like it was quite a shocker for me. But I think overall, just meeting people and hanging out with friends was just so. It's a memory that I always hold on to. And the other thing was when I between Stephens and Xavier's. I mean, Xavier's is another institute that everyone keeps talking about because you see it in
mhm.
movies.
Yeah.
When I went to Xavier's, oh my god, that's when I had newfound respect for Stephens. The Xavier's College is just one building, dude. It's like like a quadrangle, that's it. And I was
Yeah.
like, what? You should come to Stephens, people. Like the facilities, the lawns, the overall vibe of the College of Stephens is so
Yeah.
different that I don't think people in Bombay would ever experience it. I think
Yeah.
that's something that I enjoyed much later. I had a newfound respect. I said, dude, lawn की याद आ रही है, इसकी याद आ रही है, वहाँ बैठ like in Xavier's you could just sit in one place. That's it. So I think that was something that was quite
Yeah.
this thing. And I think apart from that, I think we there were certain like drinking evenings and stuff like that which we did in Stephens, which was my first time because I come from a girls' school. And my
Mm.
parents were extremely strict when we were growing up. We were not allowed to do anything. We were not allowed to meet friends and everything. So it was quite strict for me. And then Stephens being Stephens, his college experience there, झूठ भूल के जाते हैं ये वो. It was that all of that was new to me. I don't know whether people experience that in their school days when they came to
Mm.
Stephens, but मेरे लिए तो कुछ भी नहीं था. For me, I think in entire Stephens for 3 years, I must have had like a night out only 3 times. That's it. Like
Really?
probably, yeah. I was literally not allowed. Like I think last year, में फिर भी twice I stayed
Mm.
at Surbhi's house. That's about it. Like I wasn't allowed to, we not just me, my sister also wasn't allowed to. Probably
Yeah.
because my parents are from Delhi, so they were like, nahi, nahi,
Mm.
bhai, it's not safe types.
Yeah.
But I never experienced that night out life and everything in Delhi. It was
Mm.
everything that I experienced was in Bombay, in Xavier's.
Ah.
So for me, I think Stephens was a good experience, fun experience, meeting people and इधर उधर की छोटी छोटी stories. But apart from
Mm.
that, I don't think I have a crazy story in Stephens. I
Mm.
think I heard someone's story about something being on fire and everything in res, or some story someone was sharing, and I was like, what? I didn't even know this happened. So I think I wasn't that well aware when I was with Stephens about what's happening in res and stuff like that. So I missed out, I
Yeah.
feel.
I mean, you're glad that you missed out on that whole fire shit show because all of us were like dancing around to the principal's office. Our parents were getting notices. We got thrown out of like rest temporarily for,
Yeah.
yeah. So you didn't miss much, but yes, there was a night where one room was on fire, and to be honest, I still do not know the reality, like what actually
Who did
happened that
it?
night. We just know
Yeah.
that who did it, how did it happen. Yeah, it was quite a shit show. But yeah,
Yeah.
at least you came from Delhi. I came from Faridabad. So when I remember the first time I heard, "Oh, I'm a Munna," like
Oh,
MUN.
what?
I was like, what is an MUN?
Oh
You know, Model
yeah. Oh
United
shit.
Nations. All these
Yeah.
like the all
That
these
was new
Darshak
to
kids were like,
me.
"Oh,
Yeah.
oh my god!" I'm like, "What is a Munna?" Like, and they're like, "Oh, I'll be this country." What do you mean you can be a country? And I'm like, my God, these people not only is this a whole new world, some
Yeah.
kids have been doing this for the last 2 years of their life. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, like this is just like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Um,
And I feel
yeah,
like some kids also had like families who've been in Stephen, so it was such a
correct.
big deal. Like, you know what, Papa gaye the school, college mein, to mujhe bhi jana hai karke. So they all understood, I mean, or at least they were, they
Yeah,
were in that family which understood how to be in Stephens. I was like, oh my god, मुझे
yeah,
तो पता भी नहीं था कि it was such a thing to be in Stephens. I was like, मिल गया भाई क्रिश्चियन कोटा
yeah.
के बदौलत मुझे और कुछ नहीं चाहिए. And you won't believe I was one of the lucky people. My sister, she scored much higher than me in boards,
Mm,
but for her, when she was looking for Stephens, she's 1 year older than me. So when she was looking
okay.
for college admissions, Stephens that year had a different cutoff for different Christian people. So if you're a Catholic, you
Oh,
had X. If you're a Protestant, you had Y. If you're some
mm,
Christians of North India, you are Z. So
mm,
different communities within Christianity had different cutoffs. So
mm,
she couldn't make it because Catholics were like really like they
mm,
for eco or something they had like 93, 94% for Christians or
mm,
something. एंड आई वाज लाइक यार ये तो
mm.
कोटा तो लग ही नहीं रहा भाई मतलब 94% लाने के लिए उसके कोटे में हो तुम्हें कैसे ही होगा टाइप सो एंड माय सिस्टर हैड लाइक 90 इट वाजंट इवन लाइक शी वाज लाइक एट 70
Yeah.
तो बहुत डिफरेंस था शी वाज लाइक डूड आई मिस बाय 2% or 3% something but in my year or in our year
Mm.
all of Christians were put together in one percentage.
Oh,
So that is how
I
I
see. I
got
see.
saved. And my sister would be
I
like, what the
see.
hell, dude? So yeah, so I think that
Oh
was
my
something
God.
that saved me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your favorite memory of the time in college. You then went to Xavier's and lived in Bombay for ever since 2013. So that was almost 2013 to 2022 ish. So that's
Yeah.
almost 10 years. When you compare Delhi to Bombay, tell me what you like about Bombay and what you don't like about Bombay. In your
Oh.
10 years there.
I think, at least for me, Bombay was freedom because I was
Hmm.
independent. I could do whatever I want to do. I just did not had I was not answerable to anyone saying that कितने
Yeah.
बजे घर आओगे कितने बजे सो रहे हो कितने बजे उठ रहे हो types. I did not
Hmm.
have that, so I think that was a good thing. I got my own
Hmm.
piece of freedom. I was enjoying, and I think. The good thing is when you move out of home, you realize the value
Hmm.
of money, and you
Hmm.
understand how everything works from electricity to daily. How do you manage your finances? I think that's something that I learned in Bombay. The one thing that I missed terribly in Bombay is food. Food is I'm just surprised.
Hmm.
I mean, they have good international food, but Indian food, like North Indian food, is not as good
Hmm.
as Delhi had or the street. I mean,
Of
I
course.
I know Bombay is known for street food and all, but I love my in Delhi street food. So that's something
Yeah.
that I really missed. And I feel like Bombay literally never sleeps. If you're in Bombay,
Hmm.
something or the other is always happening. Like I would travel at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning without being scared. So I think that's
Hmm.
something that I really enjoyed about Bombay. And I feel like people really don't care. People not in a bad way, but they really don't give a shit about what you're doing. They don't
So
want
they
to
don't
interfere
judge.
in your life. Yeah, they don't judge, they don't interfere, they don't like अच्छा तू क्या करे कितने बजे आ रही हो पड़ोस वाली auntie, they're not looking at what time you're coming or who's coming with you and all of that stuff. I really think people in Bombay are just so busy with their own lives that they don't give a shit about तुम्हें जो करना है करो भाड़ में जाओ टाइप मेरा दिमाग मत खाओ.
Yeah.
I think that's an attitude that I really
Yeah.
like you could do your own shit and nobody would give a fuck about
Yeah.
it. So that's something that I really like and
Yeah.
appreciate about Bombay in general.
And how does that compare to now in Australia? Like, oh, sorry, where in Australia are you currently?
I'm in Sydney.
Sydney. So how does that
Yes.
compare to Sydney? I know Sydney goes to sleep at 5 o'clock, and like after
Yeah.
5 or 6 o'clock, nothing is open.
Oh my god, it was such a shock for me. I was like, भाई ये क्या हो रहा है? When firstly, the population of Australia, Sydney, is so less than the population of Delhi, Mumbai, wherever I've been. At 6 or 7 in the evening, I was for the first few weeks when I was coming back home, I was like, I was telling my partner, I said, dude, यहाँ पे सड़क पे कोई नहीं है, मेरी बहुत फट रही है, I can't come because that's the thing, right? When there's nobody in Delhi, if
Yeah,
I'm coming home late at like 11 or 12, whatever, or in Bombay also, if there's nobody, I would want someone to drop me home because there's nobody on the street. यहाँ पर
correct.
6 बजते ही लोग नहीं है ना होता है मेरे को मेरी फट रही है यार तू आके मुझे स्टेशन पे उठा टाइप एंड इज लाइक नहीं नहीं आजा आजा कोई स्ट्रेस नहीं एंड the fact that there are so less people is like it's a good thing but at the same time I miss
Yeah.
like having people around and you're right Sydney shuts at 5 o'clock मतलब after office अगर तुम्हें कुछ खरीदना भी है तो you can't it is I was like okay खाना खाने 6 बजे खा के 7 बजे सो जाओ it's like restaurants also shut
Mm,
at 6 o'clock 7 o'clock or something like that it's that's the thing that people think that and that's newfound respect for India also is the services
mm,
and the facilities that you have in India is amazing मतलब रात के 12 बजे तुम्हें बटर चिकन चाहिए तुम्हें बटर चिकन मिलेगा
mm.
यहाँ पे रात के 12 बजे मैकडोनल्ड्स के अलावा you don't get anything else so that
Yeah.
is like I was like oh my god I miss my Dunzo I miss my Swiggy everything like last year was such a and that's the thing my partner doesn't miss it or doesn't know because he left India when what in 2014 2015 so it's been
Oh,
like
so he's
eight
used to
nine years
it.
so he didn't see the evolution of Swiggy coming in Dunzo coming in
Correct.
everything that we saw like facilities are just
Yeah.
there services are just there by the on a click of a button he didn't experience so he didn't
Yeah.
understand what I was saying I was like no dude India is way ahead of what people would consider India to
Yeah.
be. So that's something that is I'm still getting used to. I still sit and
Yeah.
cry. मुझे इसकी याद आ रही है.
It's so fascinating, right? Even me, like it's been maybe like 5 years since I left. Like I was living full time in India. And when you see some small things, it's so like weird that oh my god, India is like quite far ahead as compared to what we see around. At least for me, like payments, right? Because I also work in payments now. I'm like,
Hmm.
how like this whole UPI stuff, I'm like how easy it is to pay. And this time when I went back like, a few months ago, it was so shocking that we've reached a point wherein people just will not take cash. There's
Cash, yeah,
everybody will just be like, okay, here's scan my QR, and I'm like, hey,
yeah,
I don't have what my accounts are deactivated, lala.
yeah.
I don't have cash. I have a 500. Can you give me change? It's like, oh no, I don't have it. And
Hmm.
not one, everyone. And I'm like, my God, like this is such a big change. And
Yeah.
like Southeast Asia, I work here. A lot of these countries are trying to get there, and they are, very far away. I'm like, my
Hmm.
God, India's like so much ahead. But even like what you
Hmm.
said, right? Like the ability to just be like, yeah, I'll just dunzo it. Like
Yeah.
even when I go back, everybody's like, oh, let's dunzo it. I'm like, what? You're just going to dunzo like one packet of milk? Like really?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
why not?
It's like when
And
I
the
was
crazy
in.
thing is, you'll dunzo it, and then 20 minutes later, oh fuck, I forgot something. Dunzo
You
again.
does it again.
Like my God,
Dude, it's like
that
if
is
you need
crazy.
some, and that's the thing, right? The service is so good. Like it's not like you don't have delivery services here. But if you have to
Yeah,
get it delivered tomorrow, you need to order 2 days in advance. तब जाके
yeah,
आएगा. In India, you like अभी order किया 15 मिनट में आ जाएगा. And I was like, dude, shit, that's too good of a service. And that's the thing that I guess it's the perk or when you have such a big population your
yeah,
services will boom like that it doesn't boom like that here you don't have
yeah,
that many people to cater to so it takes time for you to build a
yeah,
business get people used to that habit of doing things and everything it's just very different so I think that's something that is a perk when you have such a big population but at the same
yeah,
time I mean, and it's not that expensive because even if you
yeah.
crack 10%, 1% of the market, you're able to make money. And that's why you can
Correct.
keep the cost so low. Whereas
Yeah,
here, you can't keep the cost low because by the time adoption comes in and everything, it's you are losing money. So that's why the cost of doing that business is so much higher here that I have to
yeah,
think twice. Whereas in India, I'm like,
yeah,
okay, guys, swipe, done, done, done. That's it. So I think that
yeah,
also makes a very big difference.
yeah. But giving sort of Sydney some brownie points, what have you enjoyed, or what have you found most fun or fascinating uh, now that you've been almost a year living in Sydney?
Uh, Fun. Okay. I think
What do you enjoy the
they
most about Sydney, about living in
I
Sydney?
love walking. I love walking. I love
Hmm.
they have footpaths everywhere. You can literally walk the entire state of city of Sydney, and you'll be fine because they have such good footpaths. So the general treks, walks that I do, I really enjoy it. You have, and the work life balance is really good. Like
Hmm.
literally, you start at 8, at 4 o'clock. Fuck off. Nobody is gonna ask you question. Nobody will bother you. Like if my boss has to ask me anything, he'll say five sorries before he starts his conversation. So they literally don't bother you once you're off work and stuff. So the work life balance is so good that I have time to walk, look out. It's a very beautiful country. It
Hmm.
has a lot of clean air and everything. That's all good, but I still miss India a lot, and I'm not 100%, convinced that I want to be here for good. So that's something
Hmm.
that is it's really difficult for me, and I feel like it's easier for you to move countries when you're younger, like when you're
Yeah.
immediately after college. Like I know Surbi moved to London like in 2013, and immediately like she's been there for since then. I feel it's very
Yeah.
easy. It's not very easy. It's comparatively easier for you to adjust and settle in a country when you're young. But when you're
Yeah.
settled, and I had a set routine and everything, and then last year when I had to migrate, I was like, yeah, nahi ho raha mujhse. Even my sister, she
Hmm.
moved this year to Canada, and
Hmm.
she's like, I cannot do this. And it's easier. So it's very difficult to get used to the culture, language. Oh
Hmm.
my god, the lingo. Half of the things that people say, I'm like, what? Like words, they have this, they at least in Sydney or Australia, they have this thing, they reduce, they shorten the word. So they have like brekkie. I'm like, what? Like breakfast, vegetarian or something. You won't believe, for afternoon they say arvo, and I was like, who the fuck is gonna know it's arvo? You mean afternoon? Like there is no correlation. Afternoon doesn't even have v. How the hell am I supposed to know you're saying afternoon? Like, with slippers, they call it thongs. And I'm like,
Oh,
someone's like,
thongs.
oh
Yes, I've
yeah,
heard
and I'm
that.
like, let's buy thongs. And I was like, why should I buy thongs? Like it's like these, that is something that I'm still getting used to. I was like, yeah, what? Huh?
Hmm.
Like I really struggle with the lingo that they use here. That's it.
Got it.
I'm like, okay, take a seek lingo types. That's something that I'm still getting used to.
Mm, yeah, I do agree. I think moving when you're older is just harder. I think either because you're also much more like set in your ways, right? You
Setting.
don't want to change that much. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't want to do it differently. Yeah, Singapore is a great place, but sometimes, yeah, I don't know how long I'll be here. But yeah, even the thought of, oh my God, if I have to move somewhere else, like
Hmm.
it only gets harder by the year.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah,
For
the
me,
river of
if I'm
life will take
moving
you where
out
it
of
takes you.
yeah, if I'm gonna move out of Sydney, I'm gonna go back to India. I am not moving to any other country right now. I'm done. Now, मुझे नहीं
Oh
सीखना. I
yeah,
don't want to learn new words and
and India,
everything.
Delhi or Bombay,
Between
or like do you have
not
a
Delhi for sure. I don't have, my family moved out of Delhi, so I have nothing in Delhi
okay?
anymore. So my partner's family is in Mumbai, so either Bombay
Hmm.
or Bangalore.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I think those
I
two are
think between
exciting
those
places
two,
to be.
yeah, yeah, I think those are the two places I feel I can find. Firstly, work. My
Hmm.
relevant field of media is specifically in Bombay, and Bangalore
Hmm.
is just a nice place to be in, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the stuff you've been up to. So
Mm-hmm.
you started off working in PR. You got a master's in PR and corporate comms, and then you eventually went to work on at Tata Sky and Shemaroo. Let's talk about that first. Um, you said your first job wasn't like you didn't really enjoy it that much. Can you explain to me like what does one person do when they say I work in PR or corporate comms? Like, what do you do? And what are parts of the job like you enjoyed, and what are parts of the job like you're like, I don't like this too much.
The thing is, I mean, firstly, I did PR because I didn't know what to do. I was like, something related to
Hmm.
communication or something I can do. History, though, the only reason I did history in the first place was because Stephenson mil gaya, not because I wanted to study
Yeah.
history. I wanted to study Paul science
Hmm.
actually, and it is that I got Paul science in Ramjas and history in Stephens. Everyone was like, "Why just between Stephens and Ramjas? There's no
Yeah.
conversation. Please do history." I said, "Okay, fine." After that, I was like, "कुछ करने को नहीं comms कर लिया." And then after that, when I started working in PR, I realized that it's a very I don't know, it's a hard job. It's like convincing journalists that this product is good, this product is great. You're selling a
Hmm.
story all the time, and at times you don't even believe in that item or that product, but you have to convince
Hmm.
someone that, hey, you know what, this is a great product. And you also realize that half of the things that come in newspapers and everything is a PR story, because they are getting something, the journalists are getting something in back, in return for your
Yeah.
story. So is it even real? So people say that
Hmm.
PR is not advertising, PR is more genuine than advertising, but in the end, if you send me a gift basket and expect a story and I give you that story, how is it genuine, right? So
Yeah.
I genuinely did not understand that concept. And also, I feel when you start in PR, you really have to do a lot of these boring operational tasks, which were like, oh my god, like I had to read newspaper every single day, and not just one, like four to five, and scan and see कि मेरे brand का नाम आया है, तो then I have to put it in an Excel. I have to see, अच्छा, this newspaper is circulating in which all cities and states, and what is the population of the city, and say, to find out the impressions and all of that thing. Oh my god, it was such a mind fucking task that I would do. And it's just it just got to me, and I was like, I cannot read so much newspaper. It was like one of those, like, I don't know, when you in as kids we used to have a game where, like, you like, acha, letter A, and then you have to find five words with the letter
Hmm.
A, and that was a game that I used to play. It was like that, dude, पढ़ पढ़ के brand का नाम आया कि नहीं, बहन भाई साहब. It was mind fucking. So I was like, no, this is something that I cannot. And it was a time consuming and thankless job. A lot of journalists are just rude to you at times, and they like,
Yeah.
oh, you are just giving products, oh, your product is not good. I was like, oh my god, I cannot. You have to literally call each and every journalist every single day and be like, अच्छा ये product है, इसको review करोगे, अच्छा ये है, ये करोगे, will you do this, will you do this?
Hmm.
I was like, no, I cannot
Hmm.
do this. And that's when I was like, this is not my cup of tea. Even though I'm in sales right now, but I don't think it is as bad as what PR used to be. Oof. Or at least then it used to be. And I guess
Yeah.
once you understand the overall concepts, you do better things with PR. I do see a
Yeah.
value in PR in general, but the
Hmm.
initial years is a struggle. I feel it's quite a
Hmm.
time consuming operational work, which I didn't enjoy. And then it just so happened someone was looking for a product person and basic executive
Hmm.
product role. And I was like, please please मुझे refer कर दो, मैं कुछ भी करने को तैयार हूँ, यहाँ से निकालो types. And the thing is, if I quit my job without a job in hand, I have to go back to Delhi. That was the other thing. I was like, नहीं नहीं, मुझे कुछ
Oh.
भी कोई भी नौकरी दिला दो, मेरे को बस दिल्ली नहीं जाना वापस type. So
But
then
why couldn't you just hang around in Bombay? Because of
because
like
who's
it's just
gonna pay rent?
expensive. Ah,
Of
who's gonna
course.
pay rent? Of course.
My parents are not going to be, अच्छा ठीक है, you have no job, you still want to chill in Bombay, ठीक है, ये लो पैसे.
Got
No,
it.
no, my
Got it.
my parents were not. Firstly, they didn't have that money to put on me
Yeah.
like that. But at the same time, I was like, no, no, it's not fair for them as
Of
well.
course.
So I was like, no, I need a job before I quit, and that's when I ended up in Tata Sky. It was a product role. It was quite interesting. That was
Hmm.
something that I learned a lot about media, what happens in product, and it was
Yeah.
so I used to manage product services for Tata Sky that were only available in Tata Sky. So we used
Hmm.
to develop, create, UI design, everything for
Hmm.
the product. So it was like a product owner role. And
Got it.
of
Nice.
course, I've been there for 2.5 years or something. So there was a massive learning, and it was such a rewarding job because when you go back home and you open Tata Sky, it's like, oh, ye मैंने किया
Yeah,
था. Oh, ये जो design है, I selected it. There's a reason why
yeah,
the catalog has this product. I used to enjoy
yeah.
that a lot, dude. It was a great role, and there were it wasn't just a single thing that you used to do. You used to do multiple
Hmm.
things: research, customer acquisition, everything. So it was a very in depth good role, and it was a
Got
media
it.
role. So I really enjoyed that
Nice.
role.
So for people who are not familiar with what Tata Sky is how do you describe a Tata Sky? It's
It it's
like, what is the
a it's a
official definition?
it's a cable DTH service provider. So they
DTH,
do
direct to home,
broadcast.
correct. So
Yes.
yeah, it's a direct to home service. Basically, you get a small box and you get, like TV, and you have a bunch of channels. Um, I remember when we got Tata Sky, there were few things which were just revolutionary in my opinion at that
Yeah.
point of time. Number one,
Yeah.
you could see the schedule of your shows. So rather
Oh.
than opening up the newspaper, you
Oh
could be like,
yeah.
"Oh, I know when the show is coming." And the
It's
second
called
game
EPG.
EPG. What does EPG stand
Yeah.
for?
Electronic programming guide.
Oh, okay, man. The EPG
Something.
was
Yeah.
game changing because
Yeah.
I could be like,
Yeah.
"What movie is coming 3 weeks from now? Oh,
Yeah.
that movie is coming," and
Yeah.
amazing. But the second thing which changed the game, I remember from Tata Sky, it was we upgraded from like a normal shade-looking box to a black box, and that could allow you to record your
Record.
show. So you would not miss a show, or you wouldn't miss a movie. And then, of course, you could fast forward, like, you can fast forward the ads and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
My God,
Yeah.
now looking at where OTT has reached and
Yeah.
what, like, this is not even like 50 years ago. This is like maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Tata Sky was a game changer.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
curious to know, how big is Tata Sky today? Do you like, do people still use Tata Sky, or
Yes.
like has that disappeared?
So that's the thing when I moved to OTT, a lot of people were saying that there's going to be cord cutting basically means people are going to stop the DTH services, cable
Yeah.
services, and move to OTT platforms. A lot of people were like, this is going to happen, everyone's going to go out of business,
Hmm.
blah blah blah. But surprisingly, because India's population is so huge, the adoption of OTT is still quite low, so they still have a great
Hmm.
business. And what Tata Sky integrate these OTT services within their services. So what
Oh,
if in
nice.
today's day and age, when you buy a Tata Sky whatever monthly recharge or something, you
Yeah.
also have an option to add on these OTT service to them, to the monthly recharge,
Wow.
and just it becomes as part of another part of your TV, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people still like watching TV, live TV and everything, but at the same time, because it is now part, अब तुम अच्छा 500 रुपए वैसे ही दे रहे हो टाटा स्काई का, अच्छा ठीक है 300 रुपए
Hmm.
और दे के you get other OTT also. It's still one person is taking that money. You don't have to recharge each and every service and blah blah blah. So they've
Yeah.
managed to do that pretty well, and I think that's something that they do here in Sydney as well.
Interesting.
So yeah, so I don't think Tata Sky immediately jumped onto the OTT wagon, and
Got
it
it.
it instead of being redundant, they made it part of their own services so that
Yeah.
their services don't get hampered. So I
Got
think
it.
they're still
Wow. Do,
quite
do, do, do
relevant.
you still need to install a dish if you get it at a Sky even today?
I think so.
Or does it like
I
run on Wi-Fi? I mean, it should just run on
I
Wi-Fi,
the
no?
I don't know whether they still. I think if you still have linear channels and everything, you still need the
Oh, okay,
dish.
okay,
But otherwise, if you are
okay.
just on the OTT pack or something, I don't think you need. I don't know.
Got
I
it.
mean, it's been a while since I left Tata Sky, so I don't know how that works. But
Okay, okay, okay.
yeah, and also
Well, I
in
don't know anybody
villages and
else
all,
who
they still
worked at Tata
use.
Sky, so. Oh, really?
I still know people in Tata Sky. I can give you their number. You ask them.
You know what? Since I was talking about the dish, because the dish seems a very an inconvenient thing. Like, I
Hmm.
live in an apartment. Like, imagine everybody was installing dishes, like ridiculous.
Hmm. Yeah.
However, and I'm not sure if you've like seen this thing called Starlink, which basically gives you
Yeah.
internet directly. I
Isn't
mean, if
that
Tata Sky
right?
started offering you
What?
Wi-Fi on that same dish, I think that would be
But
like
they
game changer.
do.
Like, you
Tata
get
Sky has
internet
now
and you get.
expanded to Wi-Fi as well.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know how does that add to the dish and everything, that I don't know how it works, but they
Hmm.
have expanded the
Okay.
business
Okay.
to,
Okay.
there's something called Tata Sky Broadband, which I know is in Bombay for sure. I don't know about other cities.
Hmm. Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was your journey at Tata Sky. You spent about 2.5 years there. After Tata Sky, you decided you wanted to do an MBA, and you took a break, but you did not end up doing an MBA. How come? Why did you not do your MBA right after Tata Sky?
Yeah, I tried. It's not like I didn't want to
Hmm.
do. I tried. I failed miserably, dude.
Okay.
I don't know how people do GMAT. I haven't. Like,
Oh,
I
I cannot.
really,
I tried to.
I was like, if anyone has been able to get a good score in GMAT, that person is a genius. Matlab, that's it. I
Yeah.
don't know how. I really think my math skills are so poor that if you ask me to do 1 plus 1, I really need to do physically. I need to take a calculator out. It's that bad. So for me, I tried. I was like, because that's what I've heard, right? अच्छा तुमने पढ़ लिया, graduation कर लिया, you've done 2 to 3 years of working. Next step is natural progression is to do a master's. And my sister
Yeah.
did her MBA around that time. So my parents were like, ठीक है तुम भी कर लो, you if you know it might just add value, blah blah. I said, okay, fine, let me try it out. And also at that point, I had some, I wasn't sure whether Tata Sky had a future for me, stuff like that. I had like
Hmm.
existential crisis and crap
Hmm.
that young people have, or at least I was going through some random crap in my head and overthinking all the situation. Like ऐसे कैसे बोल दिया times. So that's why I was like, okay, fine, you know what, let me try and do my MBA, which I failed miserably. And I was like, nahi, nahi, mujhse nahi ho raha. And I had to go back to Delhi. Like I said, if I don't have a job in Bombay, there was no way I could have survived in Bombay, because in
Oh.
Bombay, whatever salary was coming to me was going for rent and everyday things. So I
Yeah.
had no savings for even to survive a day in Bombay for rent. So
Wow.
I had to go back to Delhi, and after 4 or 5 months with my parents, I was like, bus, bus. It is clear I can't clear my MBA. Chalo, chalo, let's go go back to Bombay and just get out of Delhi. And that's how I ended up in Shemaroo, because I used to work. Shemaroo used to be a partner for Tata Sky when I was at Tata Sky,
Hmm.
so they knew me. They'd seen my work, so it wasn't that difficult for me to get into Shemaroo, because they've seen my work and they knew
Yeah.
who I was. So they said, okay, this is the role. I wanted a product role there, but when they said, you know what, we have a sales role. Why don't you try it? I said, अच्छा
Hmm.
ठीक है, okay, मतलब beggars can't be choosers type. So I said,
Yeah.
okay. So they gave me a brand solution role for the content that they have on YouTube. So they have a really big YouTube, base for content, for
Yeah.
music and everything. So they wanted to get brands on board for existing content. So it was something that they
Hmm.
were also trying out new, कि जो पुराने पुराने गाने, can they re-upload these songs with some branding and
Hmm.
everything. Of course, nobody wanted to do that, and that business didn't go anywhere. And that's when I was like, okay, I don't see myself in Shimaru. And like you said, Shimaru is a old company. They still have their old ways of
Yeah.
doing things, which was way different from Tata Sky. I was like, boss, ye nahi ho sakta. Like they are very hierarchy driven. They are like, nahi, this has to be approved. There is like, if boss says no for whatever reason, that's it. There is no counter argument, or data will not be like, Acha, I'm showing you the numbers that this will not work. No, it has to be done because that's what has said. So I was like, no, I
Hmm.
can't do this. And that at that time Z was hiring, and I knew someone in Z who was working at that time, and they said, you know what, Acha, I'll give you a reference, come join the team. I interviewed and I got in, and I was like, oh, chalo, chalo, Shimaru se niklo. Because I mean, they have good content and everything, but they still are set in their old ways of doing things.
Hmm.
So even, I'm not kidding
If
you,
I can
dude.
pause you there, if I tell me about, like, I'm actually quite curious to know. Shamaru, I think, was a very like relevant company, maybe 20 years ago.
Mm,
What are they thinking? Like, I'm sure the owner of Shamaru is like, we're not relevant today anymore.
mm,
Or I don't know if they believe that or not. But in my opinion, I think they're not very relevant. But they are sitting on this big bank of very
mm.
valuable content. What are they trying to do, like, from your time there? What are they trying to do? Like, what is like the 10-year or like a 50-year plan for Shemaru?
I have no idea what is a 50-year plan. Matlab, I'll be surprised if they survive another 50 years. But you're right, they have a large depository of content which they need to utilize. So what they started doing was, they're like, "Acha, हमारे पास ये content है," and they do really good regional content and religious content. So when I was there, they played a lot on that. What they did was they tied up with all of these when OTT wasn't a thing. DTH service providers were trying to do, how do I differentiate myself from the competitor, right? Airtel also provided the same channels. Tata Sky also provided the same channels. How do I make myself different? Is to give value add services. That's what Tata Sky started
Yeah,
doing, and that's what Airtel also started to doing. That, oh, we have Airtel Dance or Tata Sky Music, Tata Sky Studio, and everything, which was only available in Tata Sky. Now, if it's a video content related value add, you need a content provider, and that's what Shimaru came into
yeah,
place. Like Tata Sky has a channel called Tata Sky Prayers or Tata Sky some Aradhana or something for
darshan.
Hindu darshan and stuff like that, right? So Shimaru jumped on that. Shimaru started creating a lot of these content, a lot of religious content. There's something called Tata Sky Gujarati or something, which comes with Gujarati music, movie, everything. Shimaru started powering that content.
Wow.
So they started getting into this business of creating new content for these, DTH service providers. But having said that, apart from that, now when they saw that OTT is happening, they came up with Shimaru OTT. But the problem with that is it's called Shimaru Me or something. The problem with that is the content that they have uploaded there is available on all other platforms because they've
YouTube.
already it's on YouTube
Hmm.
also and on other platforms like your other OTT platforms, and it's already overutilized content. So why would anyone pay
Hmm.
for an OTT service where I have content available, same content Jab We Met is available on Netflix also, Jab We Met is available on Shimaru also, why should I pay for you? So there wasn't any
Yeah.
exclusivity as such. So they tried, they are still in in trying to figure that out, but I really don't know
Hmm.
what is the future that they're trying to do.
Hmm.
They do a lot of kids content also, they do a lot of everything for YouTube, but
Hmm.
I have no idea what they're planning to do next there.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
big is Shimaru? How many people work at Shimaru roughly? Do you know?
I don't know, 100, 150, 200 something. They
Oh,
have a lot of people who, because in the end they have a studio, right? They need people, editors, and all of these guys to sit and do work. They have so many, they have, I think, almost 99 or 100 YouTube channels. You need someone to sit, do QC, upload content,
correct.
check everything. They have the YouTube business there is really good. So they
Hmm.
have a good, I think, 100, 150 people aram se. So, but
150 is
again,
very small for how big
uh,
Shimaru is.
oh, then maybe I'm
I
wrong.
would
I need to
imagine it to be
Google.
like,
Oh,
yeah, I don't know. Anyway, my guess
yeah,
would be it's like 5,000 6,000 people who work at Shimaru. But maybe
five,
it's,
six
it's much
thousand
smaller.
people. No, that's too
No?
much. I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe
I'll
so.
I'll have to
Anyway,
Google. Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
yeah.
Okay, so that was your time at Shimaru. Interesting. And that's how you slowly start getting into the world of OTT.
Yeah.
What I've heard about India is that there are just too many OTT channels right now. So what do you think? Given you spent like a few years working in OTT, where do you see OTT is going to be in like 5 years? Do you think
Everything
there's going to
the
be like, yeah? What are your predictions for OTT? I'm curious to know.
My prediction is there is this one player which will buy all the OTTs that are there, and they're going to be very. Even though right now there are so many smaller players and smaller OTT companies that have come up, my prediction is
Hmm.
probably another 5-10 years. They're going to buy out these smaller ones, and then they're
Yeah.
going to be probably two, three, which is your Netflix and your Amazon and your Geo. That's it. Probably two, 4 to 5. It'll come down the
Hmm.
rapid expansion, but it's not at all easy. It's a very, very expensive technology. It is very expensive to create content and everything. Not everyone will be able to survive. And Geo's been buying other platforms. Sony is looking to sell. Sorry, Z was looking to sell. Sony bought it. Now Sony was like, you know what? Now we need to sell our business. They are in talks
Hmm.
again to sell. So it is a very expensive business to survive. If your bigger players are looking at selling and everything, the smaller
Hmm.
players will not survive. Disney got Fox on board, or they sold it to, it became Disney plus Hotstar. But then once IPL is
Hmm.
out, now Disney
Oh
is,
yeah.
you know, struggling. So it is a
Yeah.
very expensive to get that customer. Firstly, okay, fine. If it's a AWOD business, which is advertising led business, then it's fine. You will still be able to get people. But creating content is so bloody expensive.
Hmm.
Now the only differentiator is there are a lot of regional players that are
Hmm.
coming up, like your Sun and Aha, which is in Telugu and stuff like that. But it is again, your bigger players will either buy these smaller players out. That's what my assumption is. Probably
Yeah.
another 10 years, it's going to come back to probably five players.
Got it. And
Yeah.
in the ODD like world, what is the most important like thing? Like what is the most valuable asset? Is it the content? Is it, your reach? Is it how easy it is for people to use? Is it your technology? Like what can make or break? Or what have you seen the good ODD players do? What is
It's
like the most
content.
valuable thing? It's content.
It
So
hands
whoever has
down
the
content.
content that wins.
Yes, you whoever has a content, they definitely win. And then second would be user experience. Like if your user experience is fucked, it is very difficult to retain that customer. It's like
Hmm.
so when I was at Z, we had just launched. I think it was 1 year old. The OTT platform was just 1 year old, and they were still figuring out a lot of things. My God, every single day there were so many complaints. ये यहाँ पे नहीं चल रहा, टीवी पे ये problem है, वहाँ पे ये problem है. And that's the thing, right? You can't just focus on experience on your mobile, right? It is multi platform product,
Yeah.
right? It has to work well on your laptop, it has to work well on your phone, it has to work well on your TV. And you know, if Reuben is playing content, doesn't mean Linda will not be able to play content, right? All of that
Yeah.
aspect, you really have to get it right. And the thing is, Netflix, the product was so good, is so good, not was, but it's still so good. The UI experience is so good that it's very difficult to compete with them. But at the same time, the only way you can compete is produce content that people want to watch, right? In the end, Z and all, they are very good at creating Hindi content. And that's where they have the benefit. And they have a benefit because they have broadcast content, right? Because in the end, your Sasmahu serials work, your Big Boss works, they want to watch that content, right? And people will come and watch that content because people still enjoy watching that content. The amount of
Hmm.
people who still watch roadies is phenomenal. Like
Wow.
At Wood, we used to create original content which was only for Wood. But at the
Yeah.
same time, when your roadies is on, your Big Boss is on, your Splitsvilla is on, the number of, you know, viewership we had was amazing. So
Wow.
that is something that nobody else can replicate, and that's the thing. I was on Netflix. There's this show called, I think, Love Is Blind or Too Hot to Handle. One of these shows,
Oh, there are
and
so
I
many
was,
of them.
yeah,
Singles Inferno, Love is
yeah,
Blind, this is all
yeah,
the same shit
yeah.
repackaged.
I was like, you know what? MTV Splitsvilla was, they did
The
that
OG one.
long time. Yeah, they're the OGs, right? And I was like, they cracked this, you know, reality TV thing much before Netflix did. Of course, now all of these shows are really picked up on Netflix as well. But MTV did it really well, and it still works. Like people still watch Roadies. It's a big thing. Hey, Roadies, dekhna hai mereko. I was
Wow.
like, yeah. So I think content is something that people still look for, even if the UI experience, everything, you know, might not be
Hmm.
as superior as other platforms. People really go after content. Even Big Boss, my God, what all experience we have. When Big Boss came to, when Big Boss is live on Wood, now Geo, we used to have a 24-hour live stream. So on that stream, there's nothing. There is people in the Big Boss house or walking around, and you can just watch it. So it's not like
Wow.
there is a people watch that also. I was like, why would you watch 24 hours of streaming of some random, like a group of celebrities just walking around, roti bel rahe, jhadu kar rahe, pocha kar rahe? They want to watch that also,
Why do
right?
you think
20.
people watch it?
I, I think it's. I mean, I watch reality show myself, and the reason why I watch it is I feel good about myself. I'm like, oh my god, I thank God I'm not such a loser. So I feel good about myself. So, but I feel it's like a they see celebrities and they feel like, अच्छा ये भी तो मतलब normal इंसान है. They also eat food. They
Hmm.
also have to do their own stuff. They also have their own, personal problems. अच्छा पैसे की problem होती है इनको ये. So I think they are able to. It's more of a, I can connect with celebrities that they, because it's so glamorized. Like these celebrities are so glamorized that you feel they're out of this world, but when you see them do
Yeah.
your daily stuff, you're like, "Acha, theek hai." So I think that's what my assumption is. That's why a lot of people
Hmm.
watch it, and also everyone loves a little bit of gossip and fight and drama. I guess.
Got it. I guess I could relate to them at some level that, oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're also doing the dishes. I
Yeah.
also have to do the dishes. Um,
Yeah.
since content is so important in whatever you've seen at Z and Viacom, what kind of content? What is your like bet? What if you had to go make content tomorrow, or if you had to say put in $1 million to create some kind of content? What kind of content would you create, which would work, or which would be like lapped up by these OTT players?
Wow.
Or maybe you
And
could or you could answer that, or you could answer what content you would absolutely not make because that's just like doomed to fail.
I think Doom to Fail is definitely romance type of movie. People don't want to watch anything romantic anymore. I mean, people don't mind watching it, but people are just exhausted watching those romantic. I think all of the
Hmm.
genres like thriller, drama, all of that have added so much to, especially these
Hmm.
crime thrillers that have come up in Z and Woot and other platforms. Everyone wants to watch that, heavy hitting stuff instead of your normal अच्छा लड़का लड़की से मिले प्यार हुआ शादी हुआ types. No, I think people are tired of that.
Hmm.
But I mean, that's the thing that you can't put your it is a hit and miss every single time. You don't know what works, what doesn't work. There are so many shows which were a surprise for a lot of people, that, oh, okay, this worked, that is surprising. But
Is there an
content,
example?
like all of the movies, dude. Which was that one movie where I'm forgetting the name, but there was a movie where I think Prime or someone paid like a bomb to get the rights. Oh, it was a A-lister movie. I'm completely forgetting the name, but they paid a
Hmm.
bomb to get that movie on Prime. It Nobody watched. Everyone's like, "ये कचरा किसको देखना" types. Even like big stars like Kalank, it was
Hmm.
supposed to be a hit, but nobody gave a shit. So it really does, like, people are that thing that if there is a A-lister in the movie, it will work well, has gone. People don't care if there is a A-lister or
Hmm.
a normal person who can actually act. So it is really unpredictable. According to me, there is no single
Hmm.
recipe that works for your platform. You have to give people the chance, and it just changes. And with regional coming into play, the Malayalam movie has suddenly become like a thing. Like they've come up with such phenomenal content. And that's the thing, right? Sometimes regional is where you have to bet money on. It's not about the content, it's about the language. Like at Viacom, we were extensively focusing on
Hmm.
regional content because that's where the next set of people will come from, because Hindi and English is
Yeah.
done to death. So it at times it's just not about the
Yeah.
content, it's about the language that you're focusing on. So hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. India is also such a fascinating place where then you could do so much in regional. Like there is so many different languages that you could. That's one thing I like about Netflix. I think now living whatever in maybe Southeast Asia, I like a lot of people watch Korean. Like Korean drama is very very big, and then you get
Yeah.
into it, right? And now with subtitles you can get it.
Yeah.
But I think this pandemic when I on Netflix I had pretty much watched all the English stuff, so I started watching German and Chinese and Korean.
Ooh.
They're actually pretty damn good. Like
Yeah.
some of the shows and some of the dramas are, yeah, it's like wow. Like, and imagine like if you start watching, I know like a lot of friends they'll watch Korean drama and then you just have this massive universe of Korean content that you can now consume.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's not like it's like when I think of Malayalam or like South Indian movies, you have this Rajnikant kind of you know
Yeah. Image. Yeah.
stereotype where it's just
Mohanlal
like,
and
oh my
Mammootty.
god,
That's it. Yeah.
correct, like some ridiculous stuff, but some of the
Yeah.
movies are actually, yeah, like pretty good. And now with like translation language, anybody can consume that content.
And I think the one
um
thing about Malayalam
Fascinating.
movie that is really that worked with me or I just really enjoy is they're so natural. It's like अच्छा मेरे घर पे भी ऐसे हो सकता है.
Hmm.
It's like the actors, everyone they look like us. I feel like they are not
Hmm.
overtly glamorized. They don't have straight hair all the time. They don't wear saris and sleep. They
Hmm.
wake up without makeup. They go to bed without makeup. It's so natural. Like, of course, there are some aspects of it which are glamorized, but at least the main, most of the storyline is as natural as the story would get. That is something that I really,
Yeah.
really enjoy about Malayalam movies. Like, if there's a Malayalam movie, my husband and I, like, we have to watch it, even if it's at times it's just some of them, of course, are shit, but we really enjoy watching Malayalam content, and which I didn't know. Like, I always was like, oh, when someone was like, oh, are you a Malayali? I'm like, no, I'm from Delhi. I would instantly say because that was my pride to be from Delhi. But I think,
Yeah.
once you move away, I think that's the thing that no, I am from Kerala. I'm born and raised in Delhi, but I am a Malayali. So that's something that, I discovered over time that, you know what, yeah, I am happy
Hmm.
where I am.
Is this a feature of you moving to Sydney, or did you start saying that even when you were in Bombay?
Maybe Sydney. I don't. I also because last when pandemic happened, I moved to Kerala. I was there with
Ah.
my parents for 1.5 years or something like that. So at that
Hmm.
time, when I was in Kerala, I was like, oh yeah, dude, it's such a nice place. I never stayed in Kerala
Hmm.
as such. We used to go there for vacations when we were kids. But once I stayed there, I loved the food. I was like, dude, I didn't know I liked Kerala food so much. I make so much
Hmm.
South Indian food at home even now. My husband also enjoys it. So I think once
Hmm.
I moved there, that's when I realized that yeah, I really like Kerala. I really like Malayali food.
Hmm.
Yeah, with Sydney it has accelerated, yes, but I don't think it
Hmm.
was. It happened when I moved to Sydney. I think it
Interesting.
happened when I moved to Kerala.
So now, when you think of home, is it Delhi or is it Kerala?
होम इज इंडिया मुझे इंडिया में कहीं पे भी भेज दो मैम होम बना लूंगी वहां पे but yeah, right now home is Kerala because that's where my parents live, and that's where
Got it.
the last place when I moved to Sydney was in Kerala, and the last, my
Hmm.
bedroom that I set was in Kerala, so it is Kerala.
Hmm.
Delhi used to be home, but not anymore.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
find it quite fascinating for people who are like, ethnically from a place, they grow up in another place, but then there is like, your parents shift out of that place. So even similar for me, I would say I'm originally from Goa, like culturally,
Mm.
but
Mm.
I've never grown up in Goa. Like I grew up in
Mm.
Faridabad, but now
Mm.
there's nobody in Faridabad. So sometimes I'm like, what is home for me? Like, is it Goa? Like after my, like, eventually, and say, in 20, 30, 40 years, when, my parents and, have whatever moved on, then there's nothing for me in Goa either, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
what is home? Um, but anyway, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So
For me, I think that's
sorry, I know there's a bit of a
sorry.
lag,
I think
but
we
yeah,
have a
you were
lag.
saying
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. No, I was saying the same thing that that thing that once my parents move on, is there anything left it for me in India or Kerala, right?
Yeah.
That's why I think when I was in Kerala, I made an effort to speak to my aunts and uncles whom I've not interacted as such when I was in Delhi because of course there was a language barrier. I can speak Malayalam, but it's a very funny Malayalam that people hear and
Hmm.
laugh. But I made an effort to talk to them because I was like, they are family, and
Hmm.
that's something that I've tried, but of course I've not been able to keep up. Once I moved to Sydney,
Hmm.
the time difference really gets to you. But
Yeah.
yeah, I also think about it that once my parents move, what will happen?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully a question for the far future, but a question, an inevitable question, which we will have
Mm.
to address.
Mm.
Okay, so that we talked a lot about Viacom and OTT. I want to talk a little bit about NBA. You moved to Australia to mainly with the objective of being closer to your partner. Um,
Yes.
you started doing an MBA, and in your voice note, you told me that you just do not enjoy it, or you will try your best to finish it this year, and you hopefully. What do you not like about the MBA?
Dude, firstly, I've picked up an MBA, like you said, to be closer to my partners. I picked up whatever that was easily available, whatever that was starting
Yeah,
as soon as possible, and whatever that was cheapest. Because of course because
yeah,
I realized that after working 8 to 10 years, I realized what I was doing at which was BD and sales. It doesn't require an MBA. It just requires you to be sensible. That's it. There is
yeah.
no, I mean, of course, theories and all help, but you already are doing all of that. You might not know the name of the theory, but you are already
Correct.
doing it. So I realized that अच्छा MBA से मुझे तो मतलब at least at that point even right I don't think it's adding any value to my life. So that was my agenda when I took up that MBA. So I think keeping all of that in mind, I think it's just firstly I think the quality of education that we are used to is very different from the quality of education that's here. At least that's what I
Hmm.
feel, or at least in this university, that's what I'm experiencing. And because Australia was so strict with the pandemic, it's still
Hmm.
not as open. Now, I mean, so the number of
Hmm.
people that are in my class are what, 5 kids? That's it. There are like 5 kids in my
Hmm.
class, and most of those kids are immediately after college they are coming to MBA, so they really don't understand a lot of things.
Hmm.
So the experience itself is quite difficult for me because at times you want to engage with someone who understands a little bit of business or how business works. So the conversations that we have in class, it's that the teacher is speaking and these kids are listening because there's no engagement
Hmm.
happening because they have nothing to share. I mean, I'm not saying it's their
Yeah.
fault or anything, but that's how it is. That's why I feel like all MBA colleges should say that at least you need to have 3 years of minimum work experience to have some basic
Yeah.
understanding of how business work. So my MBA is going horrible. I've put it on hold because I'm busy doing
Hmm.
other things. So hopefully next
Hmm.
year I'll pick it up again and try to finish it. My parents are like, "You have 5 months to go, just finish it." But I'm like, I really don't want to spend like my time there because I'm not getting anything out of it. So it's
Hmm.
quite bad. I don't
Got
know.
it.
I know there are other colleges in Sydney, Australia, which are really good, but at least the one that I'm in, I'll be like, never.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So you put that on hold. Um. So what is keeping you busy these days? I know you work at Pullman. Is that what takes most of your time, or are you doing other stuff too?
No, I'm not doing other stuff. I work with Pullman. I work actually 4 days a week. So one day I'm just relaxing and I'm so
Okay.
happy about it. I'm like, if I have to go back to 5 days of working, I don't know how I'll survive.
But this is over and above the Saturday and Sunday, yeah.
It is. I work some days I work
Wow.
3 days, some days I work 4 days. But that one extra day of holiday is really I mean the thing is I started like that because I was doing uni. So when I was doing uni, I needed that one day to finish class or
Yeah.
assessment, whatever that was. So that's the reason I started part time with Pullman. But now that I've put it on hold, they're like, okay, if you want to do 4 days, you do 4 days. If you want to do 5 days, you do 5 days. I said, no, I'll do only 4 days. Fifth day is holiday for me anyway. But yes, now the fifth day is getting consumed for wedding planning because planning a wedding when you're in Australia and when the wedding is in India is
Hmm.
really difficult. There is a lot of logistics involved, a lot of
Yeah.
vision that we are trying to put in place, which is very difficult. Also, we are doing it in
Hmm.
Kerala, which is again language is a problem because my partner and our Malayalam is not fluent as the vendors and everything. So that makes it a little difficult process to manage. But yes,
Hmm.
apart from that, I mean, most of my time goes to Pullman. But like I said, work-life balance is so good here that I start at 8 o'clock, at 4 o'clock
Hmm.
I'm done and I run home. That's it. And then of course there is a lot of घर का काम, क्या खाना बनाओ बर्तन
Yeah.
धो ये करो वो करो. All of that takes time, dude. I don't think I realized that when I was in India because you
It
had help
does.
at home, or someone is coming to do the cooking, someone's doing the cleaning. You don't realize
Yeah.
you have that time, but the thing is that time was getting consumed at work because in India I would, if I start my day at 8 o'clock, I would
Yeah.
not shut at 4, I'll shut at 6. So that 2 extra hours that I get here, which I'm now using for cooking and cleaning, that would go in at work, right? So I think that is I'm not happy about that, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Okay. I think there was a bit of a lag. I don't know why the internet just goes in and out. Anyway, I think the recording, the postage should be quite clean. Okay, so your 4 days a week. Fifth day is planning the wedding, and then of course Saturday Sunday is just to like of course relax because it's planning the wedding and working a job is like two full time jobs. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
For the wedding, do you guys have a date? What is the big day?
It's on 25th of November. We're getting married in Kerala.
Oh
And
wow!
I have a few of my
Oh
Stephen's
amazing!
friends coming. So I'm very excited to meet them. It's been a while since I've met any of those guys because, it was pandemic. Nobody was in,
Yeah,
people moved out of Bombay, people moved out of Delhi and everything. So I'm going to meet four, five of them they've been invited and they're all coming, or at least four of them have booked the ticket. The
amazing.
one person who's not booked the ticket knows who that person is. So I'm not gonna name shame you, but you better book your ticket.
Well, I think this podcast will come out before the 25th of November. So, well, if you're listening and if you haven't booked the ticket already, oh my god, like you're horrible. Okay,
Yeah.
as we wrap up, yeah, I usually ask people their shift in belief, but this time we started the conversation with the shifts of belief, so that is cool. Um, there's a new question I'm experimenting with, so maybe you're the first one to get it. Um, what is one in investment you made which is very proud of, which you're very proud of? And by investment I don't mean like a financial product or anything, it's just like money spent on a highly material thing, which
Hmm.
you're just like, which was like a great investment, it was money really well spent.
I really that I wasn't prepared for this question, Reuben.
You're not
uh,
supposed to be prepared for questions.
money that I've really spent that I really enjoyed. I think
Like money that
the
you've spent and you're like, this was such good money spent.
hmm. The thing is, I literally I don't spend money on myself. It takes a lot for me to spend money on myself. I am happy to spend money on everyone else
Hmm.
except for me. For me, the process of spending money is like, oh no, ye calculate karo, wo karo, rent dena, ye dena, wo dena. It's in general. I think last year, no, this year beginning, my partner and I we went to New Zealand. I think I have never traveled in my life. Okay, that's one thing that I literally spent what 18, 20 years of my life in Delhi. Then I've spent 10 years of my life in Bombay and
Hmm.
I have not traveled. The only place, only like I've been to Delhi, Kerala, Mumbai. Then that's about it. I've been to Goa twice, but for work, not to travel around. I've been to, like, I have not traveled at all in my life. I think I'm slowly, because
Hmm.
everything, every time I decide, oh, let me travel, let me do this, I'm like, oh no, it's so expensive. Oh no, फिर मेरे पास इसके लिए पैसे नहीं होंगे. I've always thought so much about it, but I think this year, once I moved to Sydney, I've traveled a little. I've got an opportunity to go to New Zealand. Looked around New Zealand for a week. I've gone to Bali. Last to last week I was in Bali. So I think that's something that I'm discovering, that invest that is an investment. That's not an expense. Like, spending that money is,
Hmm.
and that's why when I saw Anya's podcast, coming back to where we started, that is where I was like, dude, I really
Yeah.
want to learn from her how, because it takes a lot for me to spend money, and that's why I was like, oh, dude, I also want
Yeah.
to travel is something that I want to do, but I've never had the guts to spend that money on traveling. I would always get scared. So I think that's an investment that I'm slowly learning to do, and
Hmm.
slowly and gradually I'm like, you know what, money will come, but experiences are much more
Hmm.
difficult to come. And I feel the older you get, you will get tired, you won't be able to walk all the way to Mount Everest and everything,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, no, I need to do
Yeah.
traveling. So I think that's where my focus is right now, and I'm going to invest more and more.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bali. I was just going to say, since you're in Australia, Bali is literally hop, skip, and jump. Another place which is apparently very close by is Papua New Guinea. I know
Oh
a few
yeah.
friends of mine who work there. or like they
Oh
travel to
wow.
work there, and they were like, I don't know how touristy it is, but apparently it is a place to visit, and I think it may be like 2 3 hours
Yeah.
from Australia.
Yeah, correct. That's why when we decided New Zealand, I was like, भाई New Zealand, Australia आके New Zealand नहीं गई ना मैं मतलब I'm going to be ashamed forever. So I was like, नहीं, we have to do New Zealand. And
Yeah.
even Fiji is really close by. There are other islands like
Hmm.
Tonga and all of these small islands which are nearby near Australia. Which even Singapore, dude.
Yeah.
It's Singapore, Bali, Thailand, Bangkok. All of this is so
Yeah.
close by. Yeah. When I come to
Yeah,
Singapore,
I
I'll
mean,
definitely
if you're
call
if you're
you.
planning Singapore, please tell me.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a great place. And 3 4 days is good enough. Beyond that, maybe
Yeah.
not that much. But
Yeah.
it's a good place. When you're maybe stop by Singapore for like 4 5 days, and then you maybe go on to like Bangkok or go on to
Mm.
even Vietnam. Like amazing. But
Oh yeah.
okay, awesome. That's nice that you're traveling more. Okay, two pieces of advice you have for your 19 or 18-year-old self.
Oh, I would say that just don't be scared and be confident. I think that's something that I wasn't confident when I was younger, and I would be like, you know what,
Hmm.
there is nothing called, there's no set right things. Okay, I
Hmm.
think that's something I learned much later in life is you ask questions. You make mistakes. Doesn't matter because if you don't, you'll never learn. I think that's something that I would tell my younger self is it's okay. You say whatever you want to say. Be confident. Don't be scared. Don't give others the power to make you feel inferior. Right? That's all in your head. I feel like that insecurity or something. It just it's all in your head. It's not someone else is not trying to do it. It's just that in your head you're building someone else so bigger, larger than yourself that you feel small. So I feel like I wish I'll just tell my younger self to be more confident, be more open, and just say whatever you want to say.
Hmm. Interesting. So that's
Yeah.
one piece of advice. Is there something else you would tell your younger self?
Probably read more. I really think that I wish I had taken up reading when I was young, or even now. It's a struggle for me to read. It takes me like and
Hmm.
it's so funny. Okay, it's like when a friend is sharing a post on on the phone and someone's passing the phone around, and other friends are like they've read and they passed on and they're laughing, and I'm still like, okay, okay. Oh, I take so long to read. Oh my god! So I wish I would tell myself, you try and take up the habit of reading. It goes a long way.
Yeah, on reading, I think I also would never read much when I was growing up.
Hmm.
I think only very recently, and I would say maybe in the last 5 4 5 years, have I started to enjoy reading, and I love to read now. For me, what
Hmm.
has helped a lot is two things. Number one, and this is some quote: read what you love, and then you will love to read. So
Hmm.
find something which you really enjoy reading, and then you'll have to go through a lot of stuff to find like either it's a genre, it's an author, it's a topic that you will really enjoy. Until you don't find it, it's very hard to enjoy reading. So read something you
Hmm.
love, and then you will love to read. And secondly is when you find a book boring, don't continue, just stop it. I think there is this
Yeah.
thing that you have to finish the book, like you will not start a new book unless you have finished it. But like just stop. Like if the book doesn't grip you, think about it. If you can read one book a week, which is crazy, fuck that, say one book a month, you can read 12 books a year. And say even if you live 100 years, you can only read 120 books in your lifetime. Why would you waste time on some random rubbish book?
Rubbish.
There are
Yeah.
easily 120 books which are amazing, guaranteed amazing books. So if the book doesn't grip you, just move on to the next one.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah, I
think.
think those things have helped me read more. And yeah,
Yeah.
I love reading. Like surprisingly, I really like reading history now. I never even sort of knew that, but yeah, that has helped me.
Yeah, I wish I feel if I had learned how to read much sooner, I would have, enjoyed studying history for 3 years. Like if when I tell people I did history as graduation, they're like, "Oh, tell us this," and I was like, "Oh my God, please don't ask me any question. I don't remember jack shit. Like I literally do not remember anything I studied for 3 years. It's purely because I did not enjoy reading, so I would be just like, "Acha, theek hai. For the sake
Yeah.
of reading, I'm reading." So I think I wish I did learn how to read. But yeah, I'm currently am reading a book, and it's been like about 2 weeks, and I've read like some 30 pages only. But my aim is to finish
Just.
this book because, like you said, it's not a boring book. I don't know whether I like it yet, but at least I don't hate it. So I am gonna try
Mm,
and finish this one.
okay. Okay. Awesome. That was all my questions. So as always, Linda, you get to ask me one question after all the quizzing I've done for you.
Oh, one question. I think people keep asking you why you do this, why you do this, and I think I fairly understand why you do this. And then my question for you was, I was going to ask you was, how do you see yourself continuing with this? Which I think you already answered, saying that you're looking at doing that group thingy or something like that. So I think that is
Mm.
also answered. But if I have to ask you a question, what is that one advice that you will give your younger self?
At some point, I think episode 100 is going to be somebody interviewing me because I think like it'll be quite cool.
Oh, yeah.
But let's see if something else. I have a better idea for episode 100. We're about 60% through. Anyway, what advice would I have for my younger self? Mm, what? I'm very surprised nobody's asked me this question before. It's such an obvious
Oh,
question. I ask
really?
everybody. I ask everybody on every episode, and I would have imagined somebody asked me in one episode. So very interesting that you brought it up. Um, Let me think. Yeah,
Now you know how we feel.
yeah. I think one piece of advice I would have is pay more attention to health. I think
Hmm.
like in health I mean both like three versions of health. I think number one, your mind,
Hmm.
your like the your
Physical.
body, of course,
Hmm.
like physical, and of course like a lot of like stuff you put inside your body.
Hmm.
When I look back at like my 20s, the amount of abuse I have put my body through, it is a joke. Like 3 years of college eating Maggie after Maggie, and like rice and rice and rice and carbs and like zero protein, um no exercise,
Yeah.
like there's nothing for the mind. I'm just like, and now you're
Yeah.
sort of trying to undo a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, I wish like the advice I would have is pay more attention to your health. Eventually,
Yeah.
you focus on money, you focus on this, on all of these things. When you're 50, you know it is your health which is going to be the problem, or
Correct.
the thing which pulls you back, not the amount of money
Yeah.
you have, not the amount of people
And
yeah,
and
like
the
time and your health, right?
And the thing is, I think a lot of people still take care of their physical health, but that mental health, I think a lot of people are still struggling to take care of it.
Yeah.
Like even if you don't have a problem in life or you're not depressed, you don't have to go through therapy and
Yeah.
those sessions or meditation because you're down with
Yeah.
depression or anything. I think that general
Correct.
concept of taking care of health on mental health on a regular basis doesn't have to be because you are going through something. It
Yeah.
should be part of your daily hygiene, I feel.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having
Mm.
a bath. Like when you have a bath
Yeah.
to keep your body clean, right? It's
Yeah.
like just mental, like you meditate, or pay attention to it so that you don't have to go to the doctor. Like health
Mm.
is not going to a doctor. Health is just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, you stuff you do every day, right? It's like
Yeah.
hygiene.
Correct.
um I did not sort of view it that way. Now I think it's much different, but yes, I wish I had done a bit more of it in
Yeah.
20s, and not even more, like maybe if we just had that
Yeah.
some level of awareness, so I would have put myself through less of the abuse that I have done. Like college is like 3 years of Maggie. Oh my fucking god. Like I can my yeah, 10 years later my body's like, fuck you, Ruben, you can do whatever you want. You're not going to like lose that fat on your belly, or you're not going to be able to do it for
Yeah, the
all the
beer
10
is
years. You go to the gym
showing.
for 10 yes, you go 10 years to the gym, and then maybe we'll think about it. So that's my body telling me now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think that's a
Okay.
good thing to say to your younger self or to anyone
Yeah.
who's younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like, I think like for me, like I remember a few vivid memories when you go to, sometimes you have to go to the hospital and then you see like these people who are like in pain because of backache and all, and you're like,
Mm.
they have all the money, they have all the time, and who's going to solve your backache? Like you just cannot
Mm.
solve it. Like you have to live with it. Um, so it's just like, oh fuck. Um, anyway, so that is that. That brings us to the end of this long conversation, Linda. After 10 years since we
Yeah.
last probably saw each other in person, if people have to keep up with all the cool stuff you're up to, how should they find you? Is Instagram the best place, or LinkedIn, or do you have like a
Yes.
website or something? I don't know.
Oh wow, no, I have no website or anything. I'm not creative at all, but I am on Instagram. I mean, I'm not a heavy poster on Instagram, but I'm
Mm,
pretty available on Instagram, and LinkedIn is the
okay.
other platform where I'm extensively active. I love LinkedIn. It's my new social media. It's like I'm off Facebook, but I'm so hooked on like, oh, what's happening on LinkedIn? So I'm definitely hooked on to LinkedIn and Instagram. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you'll find the links in the show notes. And yeah, I think that is a wrap for today. Thanks again for making time to do this. We've
Yes.
been at it for almost 90 minutes, so that isn't quite long. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, definitely. I love the conversation. I think, like I said, it's commendable what you're doing, and I look forward to the group chat. Like, I'm very excited for the next steps.